on YouTube. You can start.
Okay. So, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining in and for Kaipe Charcha. So let me just take you very briefly through the agenda. So we plan to have about 10-15 minutes of introduction to what is Kai and Kai conference and so on by Anirudh Doshi. And then we also have with us Yoshifumi Kitamura, who's the co-chair of co-general chair of Kai 2021. So he'll tell us a little bit about what is in store for us for Kai 2021. Then we have quite some time, about 40 minutes, to discuss questions, share experiences about Kai 20, attending Kai in person. And then towards the end of the event, we also have the other co-general chair, Aaron Quigley, who will join us for a short while. So if there are any questions later, then those could be taken then. And otherwise, it's a very open discussion kind of event. So feel free to ask questions directly, unmute yourself and ask. Or if you don't prefer to ask questions directly, you can put it in chat or add it to the document that is there. And yeah, so keep hold of the link that the document, because we'll keep adding other useful links to it as well after the Zoom session. So yeah, so we'll just start with Anu Joshi talking about Kai conference in general. So over to you, sir.
Sure. Thanks, Manjiri. Hi. So my name is Anirudh Joshi. I know many of you guys personally, but some of the names are not very familiar. So hi. Welcome to the Mumbai chapter meeting. Is it what, 16th or 17th or 18th meeting? I forget. I lost track now. And thank you very much for showing up today. I just wanted to start with a very quick poll. Or rather a show of hands, not a poll. So if you can raise your hands in that list of participants and tell me if you have attended Kai before this. Yeah, I think that is a good way of asking. So how many people have attended Kai previously? So I know obviously the general chairs have and some of the other. So Vino is there. Yep, Neha is there. Hi Neha. Vinoba. Hi Vino. Ujjwal, hi, nice to meet you. Radhika, hi Radhika, nice that I didn't know that you had to been to Kai. Chandni, obviously. Yeah, Yoshi for me, of course. Yeah, so a large number of people though haven't. So thank you. I think that is nice to know. So many of you guys haven't been to Kai, so I think it will be nice introduction. So I'm kind of going to quickly get started. I don't really have a presentation, but I do. I'm going to share my screen. So Manjiri, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing screen so that I can just walk people through the Kai program, and then maybe there's yeah. So we are actually now talking about Kai 2021, uh, but I'm going to actually show you some of the earlier Kais. And Kai 2020 unfortunately did not happen because of COVID, because it was right in the at the time when the onslaught was at the highest, and the pandemic hit us actually fairly late, so the organizers could not even organize a virtual event in April, so it had to be called off. Many people actually got together and organized, self-organized many smaller events around Kai around the world, and that was very interesting. And I attended a few of those, but but it's kind of slightly different. So, and it actually one of the interesting thing is that it uses a new program schedule and so on. But I'm not going to use that. I'm going to kind of revert to Kai 2019, which was the last sort of in-person Kai that happened, and I was there. And here I am wearing 2019 T-shirt. Uh, Right. So I'm going to kind of use this as a basis to kind of just explain. So for those who have never been to Kai, but presumably have been to smaller HCI events, are usually used to maybe a one-track conference, a two-track conference, or even some of the larger conferences are maybe 4 or 5, 6 tracks at the same time. And they're usually fairly manageable. Kai conference usually is much bigger than that, several tracks at the same time. And so it's sort of interesting to look at it with respect to the program. And in fact, if you go to the schedule of program, that itself is a fairly complex thing, and it's kind of managed through several apps. And now there is a new program app available, but I'm going to still use the old one, which we used to use till 2019, which is the Confer app. Actually, there are many. There is a PDF which you can download, and you also get that as a printed version, which is somewhere. And there is also a mobile app. So all of this is now collapsed into a single sort of progressive web app, which probably I don't know if Shifumi is going to talk about or not. Okay, but just to kind of give you an idea, so there are many things happening in Kai, and many of you perhaps are familiar with Kai in terms of the papers, and that usually is the most sort of central part of Kai. So usually there are about 700 or 800 papers published every year, and on almost every topic in HCI. So these are just so if you so Kai is a 6-day conference. It starts on a Saturday morning and it goes on till the Thursday. So that's typically been the format of Kai for the last about 10 years or so. Yeah. So if you just look at the papers, when you there are like many things. So if you see these are the Monday papers from 11 a.m. to 12:20, 80-minute slot. And if you see, there are so many simultaneous papers that are happening. These are actually not papers; these are individual sessions, and then there are papers within each of these. So this is smart homes and IoT, and you'll find 4 papers on smart homes and IoT over there. And kind of to make it easy, there are you can actually save a particular link. So people usually have to prepare a lot before they go to Kai and attend. But so you will usually have 6 days chock-a-block full of schedule if you decide to attend Kai. Okay, so papers are the biggest thing. There is Alt Chi, which is basically a different kinds of papers that go through a slightly different kind of review process and sort of are sort of targeted to generate some parallel interests. There are case studies which predominantly come from the industry, uh, and they are so again in similar slots. They're a little smaller track than papers, but actually still fairly popular among the industry folks. Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens, and I'm going to kind of switch back to the Saturday, and you can actually see uh, Saturdays and Sundays are usually for workshops, and if you want, you can actually also get the Zoom stuff out. Uh, so there is a whole bunch of workshops. So there's a list. Here is a list of workshops that are typically there. So either they are half-day workshops, they are called these as part day workshops, uh, or there are full day workshops. So there is like usually about 30 or 40 workshops happening on Saturday and Sunday. And again, you get a lot of choice. There's also some symposia that are happening. So for example, if you might be interested this year, we've been organizing the Asian symposium for the last few years consistently. And but there are other symposiums that you might be interested in. So usually there's a huge amount of choice starting from Saturday itself. So that's sort of interesting. The other thing to kind of that might be of interest to you is courses, and courses run in parallel to the paper sessions. So these are courses basically. Again, if you see, they usually at any given time you'll have a choice of about 4 or 5 courses. Okay, so well, not always, but in some of the slots. Uh, yeah, so these are just the Monday courses, and then again Tuesday you'll have another bunch of courses and so on. Then there is lots of other stuff. There are SIGs, which are, you can think of them as mini workshops. Basically, they are a very short session of a bunch of people interested in a particular area. So it's like a workshop, but where a small group of people come together and sort of do something about it. Okay. Then there is then there are panel discussions, and again, so they are sort of again on all days and throughout. And then there's a whole bunch of special events that happen, um, which are probably not listed here, but they're sort of away. I had to open them somewhere. Yeah. So these are all kinds of. So there is a newcomers reception. So if you are going for your first Sky, I will strongly recommend that you go there, because again there is almost like 2 hour thing. Some of that is about walking through the Kai program, perhaps, but mainly about meeting people and finding out how one should get the best out of it. There is a the AC reception. There is a conference reception. The conference has a reception usually on Monday evenings, but we will see if there is. Okay, this is a virtual Kai this year. There is a diversity and inclusion lunch, which is a very interesting event for lunchtime. There's a job fair. There are UX events. There are Kai stories, which are usually evening events where people actually tell very interesting stories about their Kai. There is a town hall meeting, usually on the Wednesday, uh, video showcase, and then here is another reception that was there, particularly in 2019 at the Glasgow Science Center. Okay, so there are a whole bunch of special events, and then I don't know. So there are of course talks. Usually there are very high profile and very interesting keynote speakers that sort of show up. There are also award talks. So at the time of Kai, usually a set of very interesting researchers and academicians and industry folks who have really done very interesting contributions are awarded. And then sometimes there are award talks. Uh, yeah, what else am I missing? Yeah, so I think that's it. So it's kind of a packed program. In addition to that, a lot of people actually go out and plan their own meetings. So it's very common for aspiring PhD students to meet potential PhD supervisors at Kai, because it's an international meeting, and very often there are those kind of meetings. Very often, collaborators across universities find meetings, decide meeting slots, or organizers of other conferences get together at Kai to plan out their events and so on. So there's a whole bunch of meetings that people plan out around Kai. So usually it's a 6 days worth packed thing. Yeah, I don't know if there are any questions that people have put down. How can students find research opportunities through Kai and other conferences? Well, firstly, yeah, that's a fantastic question. Well, I'm sure others will also have a dig into this. But I think just visiting Kai and sort of discovering. So I kind of look at Kai. I mean, I still consider myself in some sense as a student of Kai, HCI. So I go and firstly, I of course attend. I have a bunch of things that I'm interested in, and so I mark out those papers that I definitely want to go and attend beforehand. And then I also sort of identify things that I want to get into in future, or just kind of select a bunch of random things. But there is a whole bunch of senior researchers on the call today. So if any of you guys want to pitch in and answer that question, it's a very interesting question. How can students find research opportunities through Kai and other conferences? Anybody wants to add? Chat. Okay, maybe we'll warm up a little later. And then how can students get better involved with HCI researchers and their work in a conference setting? So really speaking, a conference is a place where you go and meet people. You confer, as many people say. So that's the conference. Meeting people, talking to them, discovering things that you are interested in, or developing new interests, developing new connections. So that's really a fantastic thing to go and do. And you actually, even if you don't immediately follow up on it, maybe, or nothing concrete happens at the end of it, that still is a good start. Maybe something does come out. If not, you actually at least come back very inspired. That's my experience. That's been my experience going to Kai. Okay, so it's 4:20. Manjiri, I hand back to you.
Thank you, sir. So great. Great. So Diksha shared screen. So next we go on to. So please keep adding questions there, or feel free to actually just ask your question right here. It's not a very formal kind of event. Okay. So next we have Yoshifumi Kitamura, who's a professor in the Research Institute of Electrical at Tohoku University, and he's also the general co-chair of Kai 2021. At Tohoku University, he is also the director of Kitamura Information Content Design Laboratory, Tohoku University. So he's a person who wears many hats. He's also the Japan liaison for I50C13. He's been also on the ACM Sikkai Conferences Board. He's the liaison for Japan and is also the chair of ACM Sikkai Asian Development Committee and the chair of Japan ACM Sikkai chapter. So what do you, Yoshifumi? Uh,
Okay, thank you very much. Can I share the screen?
yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening from Japan. I'm Yoshifumi Kitamura from Tohoku University, Japan. Thank you very much for inviting me to explain CHI conference this year. So as Anirudh explained, CHI is a premier international conference on computer-human interaction. This year, we have the CHI conference on May, online. But originally, it is scheduled to be held in Yokohama, Japan. That was supposed to be the first CHI held in Japan in its 39 years history. Unfortunately, the CHI 2021 would be held online. So as Anil explained, the CHI is a very huge conference. The keynote and ceremony is held the very huge room. This is the half left and right, like this. It's very huge. And the paper presentation, the oral presentation will be held like this. And exciting demonstrations held in the programs called interactivities. And so there are many exciting demos held in the program of interactivities. And workshops and symposiums is a place to meet and discuss the very particular issues with a very limited number of people, around 20 or 30 people. And we had the Asian CHI symposium for these several years. Posters are held in late-breaking work. And many programs, many posters are presented here in the late-breaking work. And of course, you can meet the people from companies and in the exhibition and the recruitment, which is supported by food and drinks. And you can enjoy the reception too in the venue of the exhibitions, like this. Anyway, in 2021, although it is held online, our theme encouraged authors and delegates to make waves. Different people with different interests, experience, and expectations all come together at CHI to share and learn from one another. People approach CHI from different trajectories due to different research interests, varying educational perspectives or diverse industry needs. As a result, we can think of CHI as a platform of combined strengths of different people from different perspectives. The primary wave shape you can see is inspired by the famous Japanese traditional picture. Can you imagine? The different trajectories people approach from CHI from are represented as 7 different colored ribbons which come together at the base of the wave. The motion of the wave represents the energy of CHI, which can fix and blend together the various ribbons. So while a delegate might approach Kai on one trajectory, by the time they leave, they should be infused with many of the other perspectives, areas, and aspects of Kai program and community. As such, Kai 21 is an opportunity to combine and mix the strengths of different people, different areas, and different perspectives on the challenge and opportunities in human-computer interactions. We're planning to have the many different kind of programs or to present their latest work or to discuss the interesting topics and learning to attend the course, and others as a kind of award talks, some of the town halls, and the exhibition, recruitment, and the students can also participate in the doctoral consortiums or student game competition and the student research competition and the student volunteering. Roughly speaking, the Kai 21 plan to have more than 4,000 participants from more than 50 countries or regions, even if it's held in online. The programs consist of almost in precise, we have 750 papers accepted this year. And it is almost a 26% of acceptance rate, actually. So in addition, we have almost 100 interactive demonstrations in the program of interactivity, and 100 posters, and 52 workshops and symposia, and more. Then we have 100 committee members and 200 student volunteers. So do you know did you know the number of the 4,000 delegates in Kai? In the history of Kai, so this is the history of growing community. For example, just 10 years ago, we only had almost 2,000 in Italy, and US, Canada, a little bit more, and US, and Paris, Toronto, Seoul, and San Jose, Denver, Montreal, and Glasgow. It usually had 2,000 or 3,000, but we're expecting the Honolulu unfortunately canceled, but Yokohama are supposed to be, but it's online. It must be more than 4,000, which is become the biggest Kai ever. And it's not limited to the size. We are aiming to make the Kai the best one ever with the committee members. As I said, so that we have more than 100 committee members, but mainly it's Aaron Gregory is a general co-chair, and the technical program chairs of Catherine and Takeo, and the paper chairs and the Paneluro and Stephen. As you may know, we are working in the field of computer-human interaction, which investigate how to interact with machine. And so we're now developing the new technologies, how to use the techniques in the interaction between the machinery and the humans. Also, we focus on mainly interested in the diversity and inclusion, the equity and accessibility and more. After the COVID-19 pandemic started, we established the hybrid conference advisory group to make the KAI 2021 in a hybrid style, in which the physical participants and the online participants can attend the KAI conference together and enjoy the conference programs. This hybrid conference advisory group consists of the members from the KAI 2030 Visioning Task Force from KAI Executive Committee, and former technical program chairs and KAI 2020 chairs. And also we have many community feedbacks and discuss the important cornerstones for running conference or virtual or hybrid. Of course, we pay attention to the inclusion, equity, and participation, time zones, and accessibilities. And we discussed how to set the standard for future conferences. During the discussions, someone said, so this is the good timing to think about the future, that we have to stop the physical conference regarding the climate changes on the CO2, something, No. Conference is not just a meeting. Though it's a variety of programs to visit the industries in the host countries, for example, and visit laboratories or sites or visit the somewhere else. And of course, it's important to have a chance of ad hoc encounters. It's most important point of the in-person meetings. Or hybrid or the virtual conference provides the level of playing field due to the, for example, so the traveling or accessibilities, or maybe you have constraint of the families or something like that. Probably that provides a level of the playing field. And if we have the virtual conference, we can enjoy the conference not limited to your own time zones. We can enjoy the conference 24 hours by using the technologies online. So we're now looking for the good platforms to make the KAI 2021 virtually, but we're now still discussing about these issues yet. And on this platform, we are now discussing to have the 24/6 virtual KAI. Actually, we are going to have the program in 3 times in a day during the 24 hours. First one, which is in the morning time of Japan. Oh, so this is Japan time. And so this time, this is the Europe and the so America, for example. In the morning of Japan time, we have a first time slot. And so this time slot will be the time with the people in America. And in the afternoon, we're going to have the programs with Europe, with the people from Europe. And the midnight without the people from Japan. So the people from Europe and America enjoy the programs. Where's India? Yeah, between Japan and Europe, it must be. So you can enjoy probably 3 times. In the morning in Japan, in the afternoon, and midnight. So in these 3, among the 3 time zones, among time slots, the speakers can talk in 2 time slots among 3. So you don't have to miss the particular programs. You can enjoy it anytime, anyway. And on the virtual conference, so usually CHI registration rates is very expensive. For example, this is the CHI 2019. The registration rate was almost $1,000. It's very expensive. But because we are going to have the CHI conference on virtual, online, so in 2021, we are offering the reduced registration rates for everyone, and even further reduced rates for individuals residing economically developing countries who take advantage of early registrations. Category C, Category H, Category I. Category C is the country not belong to the H and I. So please refer to the website. Your country belong to H or I or C. So anyway, you can have the reduced registration rates if you make the early registration. Please note, so this is the early registration rates. The regular and late registration will become like this. Category C and H and I are the same. So don't miss the early registration stage. And of course, the one-day conference provides the very easy to attend opportunities, and workshops for $30 for each workshop. And symposia, which so the Asian CHI Symposium, for example, it's 130 or 30 per symposium, it's conference. And of course, the courses, the 25 per unit. And the registration page will open very soon, next week, during the next week, okay? And in the early registration phase, you can find the merchandise. We now think about the, maybe you know, it's like Hello Kitty. This is one of the famous Japanese cute culture icon of Hello Kitty. But we call this the Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty is wearing the CHI 2021 Japanese happy coat. This is very limited. In addition, the CHI 2021 face mask is in also the item list. It would be good to share your CHI 2021 experience at your own place by posing your photo online. And CHI 2021 face mask will be included in your early registration fee, but it is limited to the first 1,000 at this moment. We're planning to have only 1,000 who take up the early registration only. So you should make a registration within early registration stage. Don't miss it. Now, I think you want to attend CHI 2021 in any way, but unfortunately, most of the programs already finished. The deadline already passed, but this is how to attend the CHI 2021 from now. Anyway, visit the webpage and find something still more in time. For example, the Asian CHI Symposium had opportunity in round 2, which has the submission deadline on February 25th. Okay, and more. If you try to investigate the carefully on this webpage, you will find upcoming deadlines or student volunteering. Okay, so this is February 14, March 1st, March 8th. you still have the opportunity to attend CHI as a student volunteers. Student volunteers can provide good opportunities to work with the young, the very the strong young researchers from all over the world. Especially this year, we have the 24 hours program. So the student volunteers from each of the time zones have to work together. So it's very important for you to come and join to work as a student volunteer. And visit the webpage of CHI 2021 and make early registration in case. This is the final slide. Please come and join CHI 2021 to combine your strengths with ours. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Shifumi. So this one question in chat that Neha is asking, when will the early registration close? Is there a closing date for that? For the early registration CHI 2021?
Which is early registration close. Maybe mid of March. I think. But please try to complete the early registration as soon as possible in order to get the face mask.
Awesome. Okay, so some of the links that we have also added those links to the same document if you want to refer back. Registration rates, happy design contest, student lottery, all of those things. So if people can, if you want to go back, then it's in the same link, document as before, where the questions are. Okay. So do we? Does anybody have any questions for Yoshifumi? Or we can then start the. Okay. All right. So okay. So we can then just open up to discussions. We have a bunch of people who have been to CHI before. So do people want to share their experiences of how was it, or what? So maybe Suleiman, do you want to go first? I think you have another thing to get to. So do you want to go first, or are you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Because I stayed here. I don't know how come I missed the time zone part. I thought that we're gonna start 30 minutes at a different time zone, but I can go. I'll still have 50 minutes.
Okay.
So thank you very much. It's great to be part of this.
Suleiman, just introduce yourself because maybe.
Sorry. I'm Suleiman Shahid, and I work as an assistant professor in computer science at Lahore University of Management Sciences. That's a private university, but a decent one in Lahore, Pakistan. And Lahore, is very close to. So I am right now maybe from 11 kilometers from the Indian border, or maybe 12 kilometers. So Amritsar from here would be about 15, 16, 20 kilometers, So the most expensive place, and my university is actually maybe 7, 8 kilometers, or maybe 10 kilometers, something like that. Not too far from the border. So I moved to Pakistan 4 or 5 years ago, and now I'm running a small HCI lab there. And one of the reasons I moved back, other than family, was also that there was absolutely no design related activities happening in Pakistan at that time, about 4 or 5 years ago. There was no design conference, there was no HCI chapter, there was not even a single HCI lab working in Pakistan when I moved there. And there were decent HCI Pakistani researchers working all over the world, but I think many decided to stay outside Pakistan. So I moved here and I started working in this area. So I'm now working in the area of well-being, learning, inclusion, and in this area. So I'm more like a practitioner. So I also run a design company. So, but that helps me a lot in connecting with academia as an assistant professor. So my first Kai was back in 2006. Actually, it was in Montreal, and it was a free trip for my university to go to Montreal. So if I remember, I think I'm not sure about how much fun I had at Kai, but I had a lot of fun, at least in Canada. So, and that was a real fun trip. But I think one of the first and the most overwhelming thing which I had at Kai was that you get to see people, uh, uh, in reality, that you were reading their books and you were reading their papers. And for example, I remember that the first time I met Nielsen, that was pretty overwhelming. I was, all these. I have been reading his books and everything else, and then you meet these people in real. That as a student at that time, not even a PhD student, as a master student at that time, it was really overwhelming. And then you become a part of the community, and you get to meet these people again and again. But I think the first time, the first Kai was always a little overwhelming for me. And I think one of the second best experience I had with Kai was when I was a student volunteer. I think that was, you make some real good friends if you are an extrovert like me. You get to know people, you make good friends, and then you see them again and again at different places over time. So if you're a PhD student or a master student, if you get an opportunity to be a student volunteer at Kai or any other decent conference, I think that's a lovely experience to have, and you get to discuss your research work, but also lots of fun and party, in the evenings. Uh, Intellectually, my takeaways, the Kai has become a little too overwhelming for me purely because of the sheer size and the parallel sessions in the past few years. And I have personally have been focusing. I still like to publish, but I've also been focusing on single track conferences, and and rather I met at Interact, and I think for me and him sitting for hours in Kai would be impossible. But I think Interact made it possible that we can actually see each other maybe multiple times. So that's a different story. But so single track conferences bring that kind of a social interaction. But in Kai, I think for me, as you rightly mentioned, it's just not about visiting the conference, but also really visiting the labs, visiting your areas of interest in terms of professors and people. And there is almost never a case that people have said no to me, that I don't want to talk to you. It's just that you kind of take an initiative and then talk to them, and people usually reply back. They can give you 5 minutes, they can give you 7 minutes, they can offer a cup of coffee, they can talk to you while talking, while walking, but the community is open and very helpful. So as Neha also mentioned, that there are like us and human beings, and if they've done a great job in their field, doesn't mean that they don't reply back. I think they're very nice people, and I would say that you can always cash on and connect with them and get to know more. Finally, for me, another experience at Kai which has worked a lot is to really visit the demos and the industry track, where you get to go to the stalls, you'll see what is happening in the industry, sometimes some excellent demos, but also the real demos, which as a computer scientist, I always want to look at, things actually working. So if you have been to UAST, you know what I mean, so you see some real stuff, you see some real stuff, things which work and go beyond good English. So so I think demos are also a wonderful way to learn and get to know people. So in general, I think Kai, you need to go Kai. One of my supervisor told me, when I was studying in my PhD, he said that if you go, like, there are two ways to attend a conference. One is that you go completely unprepared, and then you sort of get lost in the Venice, in the streets and everything else, and you don't know how to come out, but you still have fun. There was no purpose, but still, you like the scenery. Or another one is you go with a complete planning that I want to get to know these papers, I want to talk to these people, I want to attend that lunch, and then you get a different kind of experience. So I think you need to plan for your outcome, you need to plan for your experience, and in both ways, you will at least get something out of it. It's a great community, and I think we should all really support and do our best to make it even more, healthier and wealthier, and more inclusive, in my opinion. Inclusive is important, but that's not for today. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Suleiman. Do we have any questions? Or perhaps we could keep going and then take a bunch of questions at the end also. Okay, cool. So Chandni, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi.
Hi. So maybe we follow the format. Can you briefly introduce yourself and then speak about your experiences?
Yeah.
Cool.
My name is Chandni. I studied masters in design at IDC 3-4 years back. It's been a while, and I got to go to CHI in 2016 because like our student design competition entry got accepted to present there, and then we also made it to the finals. I think we came in second, but it doesn't even matter because the conference experience is like is much more than the competition itself. And we also got like my team, 2 of my classmates and I, we also got a travel fund to that sponsored our travel there. So it worked out really well. And then some of my other classmates who also tagged along because we were going, then it sort of opened up a travel opportunity. And then 6 of us from my batch ended up going from a batch of 13. So it was quite a class trip. The conference was, I don't know, it was like a festival in that where you get to meet so many people who are doing cool things, and then they I think it just opened up so much for us to just see everything that's going on. And in fact, like, I don't know, this is interesting. After the presentation in the finals of the student design competition, someone from the Apple stall, the recruitment stall, they came up to us and asked for our resumes, and asked if we were around and we were looking for a job. At that point, we weren't. But things like that happen also unexpectedly. And conferences in general, yeah, like there's just so much connection that happens. It's and like you end up having conversations that you sort of, at least for me, like conversations that I treasure for a long time. This is not something else that happened at Interact when it was in Bombay, not at CHI, but it could happen in any large HCI conference. So in Interact, the one of the keynote speakers, Albrecht Schmidt, he we started talking about a project that I was working on at the time, which was the early stages of Tactopus. It's an education technology startup that I founded. And we ended up speaking like through lunch, like past several sessions, and I was feeling very apologetic about how he's missing sessions. And he said that this is what you come to conferences for, to talk about ideas, and you can always catch up on papers and things like that. So I found like having access to his time like that and to discuss ideas, it was really like quite fortunate to have things like that, experiences like that in a conference. And that can only happen in in an academic setting like that, where everybody's like taking time out of their work to be fully present, and it's quite something. if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. Yeah, I just wanted to share those little bits.
Cool. Thank you, Chandni. Okay. So anybody else? Yeah. So do we have any volunteers for who wants to go next, or so I know there are a bunch of other people who said that they have also been to Kai. Maybe Neha, if you want to share something.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that I went to Kai was, I guess, in 2010, and I was extremely overwhelmed. I did not talk to anybody except the folks who were from my lab and my advisor, and that experience. I'm not super extroverted, so it took me some time to just kind of get used to things. But Kai is like a big party, I would say, and it takes some time to find people who are sort of, people that you can hang out with. I think one thing that I will say that I've started to do more with my students now is make sure that they have buddies to be at the conference with. So someone who's looking out for everybody, as in either in groups of 2s or 3s, but basically just making sure that people have something to do through the day. They know kind of what they're planning to do for lunch and dinner. They are fairly oriented in terms of what activities are going on. They have discussed what types of talks they want to listen to. I think that's an experience that can actually also translate well to the virtual experience, where you can discuss with others who they're going to go listen to, scan the program in the morning, make notes, and so on. In terms of just approaching people, I want to second and third what others have said, that it's not worth, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like someone might just turn away and not talk to you, and that's okay, right? Like you tried. So I would recommend that if you see someone's name pop up, you want to approach somebody, you want to just say, hi, I know your work, I've read your work, and just wanted to chat with you for a few minutes. I think that's even possible on the virtual channel. So it's worth trying to do. I haven't seen a virtual Kai so far, but I did attend virtual CSCW, and there were venues where you could have those conversations. It's a different type of interaction, but it happens, and I recommend it. One thing that I want to mention in addition is with regards to the travel awards. So this is in my hat as like SICAI VP at large. We've been working on our committee to revise the travel awards that SICAI has been giving out through the years, and I think some of you might have partaken of those. So for this year, what we try to do, because we had budget, and there's no physical travel happening, obviously, we're moving those to virtual travel. Virtual travel basically means registration waivers. So the way that the awards are structured is basically, you do need to be a SICAI member, but I think it's fairly, it's worth it to get a SICAI membership. I think it's fairly reasonably priced, and then you can apply for the travel award if you're going as a first timer, or if you're going to present your work, you would be prioritized. And that will basically cover your Kai registration, however much it ends up being. I think with reduced rates, it's quite inexpensive, but you can use that to attend. You can share that with your friends. That's the Gary Marsden Travel Awards link. So I hugely recommend that you use that, because that's gonna, through that, we're really hoping to push up to reach the 4,000 number that Yoshifumi mentioned. I don't really have anything else to add, but I'm also happy to take questions, like on the document. I answered the couple that were raised there. Okay, That's all.
Yeah, so just to wanted to say that there are two different memberships that people often get confused. So there is Sikkai membership and there is ACM membership, and you can become a member of either of them. So we are here to root for Sikkai, of course. Also wanted to say it's about $6 for Indian students, and I forget how much it was for professionals. Manjari, do you remember?
So it's $22 for India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and for Sri Lanka and Iran, I think it is 33. So
So
we
it
have
ends up
some of the
being worth it, right? To get the member rate. I mean,
yeah. So I think yeah. So maybe I could just show something while we are talking about it. So I have one slide about this that I wanted to share just so that people you don't miss it. Let me just share that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, right. So the membership, professional membership for India is $22, and for students it's $6. So if you sort of do the math, then if you want to also apply for, say, the Gary Marsden Travel Awards and get the early registration, then it totally makes sense to you save a couple of dollars if you think of it that way. If you get the membership and then the member rates, but then you can also apply for the travel awards, and yeah, and then of course you can apply for the student volunteer lottery and the happy design contest. So yeah, it makes sense to actually still get uh, Sikkai membership and then get the early registration.
the deadline,
Yes.
it's in there in the document, but the deadline is March 9th. Just keep that in mind.
Yes, yeah. Okay. All right. So I think the one or two more people who said that they might want to share. Sumita, do you want to?
Hi. Hi. Yeah, sure. I can just quickly share, of course, all experiences. Like, I agree, Kai is a big party. It's really overwhelming. I've only been there once in 2017, and it was quite overwhelming for me. I think there were like 5,000 attendees that year. It was huge. The only thing I wanted to add was that what I really liked about Kai was that, at least for me, like when I work, I feel like I work in this bubble, like, you know, you're with your research group and you're working on your own topics, and going to Kai really opened my mind to the work that's happening under HCI. Like, it's huge, and there's so many things and so many interesting things that are happening that I think that experience was really valuable, just to see the different type of expertise, people, ideas, and how they kind of intersect or cross connect. To me, that was really interesting. And I think one of the reasons why I like attending conferences in general, just to open my own mind to all the different things that are happening.
Thank you. All right.
One thing, if I might add, someone asked, right, about how to engage with researchers. You can think also of asking questions in people's talks. I think that's one way to be able to engage, and then you can follow up on that conversation later. And that way people kind of know that you've engaged with their work, so it's easier. The barrier to chatting with them is lower.
Yeah, I just wanted to call out to Vino and Sayan and Rishi if they want to just pushing, prodding them.
Hello. Sorry.
Yeah, and guys, please introduce. I mean, even I wanted to say that to Sumita. Please, like, let us know where you're from, what you're doing, and so on.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was sort of doing other things while I was listening to you as well. So let me just, right. I'm Vinoba Vinagamurthy. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk. I am in the BBC, and those are my children. You can hear screaming. I'm based in London, and I have been with the Kai community, I think, from my PhD days, which was way back in 2003, but maybe not as active as now. My first time actually going to the conference was in 2012 in Austin, Texas. And because I am in industry, we had a very organized, concerted effort to try and collaborate with academics and make our network bigger. And so we sort of had like a collaboration of 8 universities. And so there was a lot of prep work before we went into Kai, making friends, making networks, just touching base with other people who are going to Kai by looking at the sort of general network. And so when we went to Kai, it was a very work-focused conference. And so it was, you kind of go there and like many other people have said, it is a party kind of environment, and you are on from like 7 o'clock in the morning all the way till 7 o'clock in the night. And then there's the work dinner. So it was quite overwhelming. However, it also, like other people have said, opens your eyes to just the breadth of work that's being carried out in the HCI community, and also, potential complementary kind of people you can talk to. And then I have been to other Kais once when I was heavily pregnant at the sort of 36 weeks to 2013 in Paris. We had a workshop and everyone went out of the way to, pregnant woman, heavily pregnant, walking kind of situation. And if people didn't know, children are allowed to go to the interactivity session in Kai almost for free. I think some conferences charge like $10 or something, but most of the time you could enter for free as well. And so we had my 4-year-old who came to the interactivity session in 2013. And it was quite amazing to see all the interactivity session booth owners changing their sort of pitch to a 4-year-old kind of level to try and get across what their research is about or what their particular interactivity booth was about. And so that was an thing. And I've seen that happening in Kai. So it becomes more like not quite a family event, but you can bring people with you as well. Spouses have come along for dinners and events. So there's that sort of aspect to Kai as well, which I think we haven't quite covered maybe. But overall, yes, go to Kai. There is some prep work you need to do beforehand and try and talk to as many people as you can and follow up, I think, at the end as well. If you are interested in a particular researcher or their work, reach out and talk to them. I think with Twitter and email, that becomes a little bit more of an equal platform as well. So all very good. Any questions?
Okay. Awesome, cool. Thank you. Sayan, do you want to? Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, so hi, everybody. And thanks for, this wonderful session organized. Thanks to Mumbai Kai chapter, first of all. And yeah, so my name is Shayan Sarkar, and I am now an assistant professor at University of Tsukuba, Japan. And I would, like to start with where I am currently now is for Kai. So the Kai made me this possible. So I want to share in this way is when I started my PhD, it was very new field. HCI was very new field for me because I did my master's in some different area, completely different. It's a, networking kind of thing. So when I came to first HCI, so I was quite a bit overwhelmed, tried to understand what is going on. How things will be done and what kind of research is going on. And my first Kai was 2014, where I was a co-author of a short paper. Definitely, we wrote it just for 3 days or something, days and nights, and then just submitted. And we never expected that we'd come out with a positive note. And yeah, it was a mixed feeling from the reviewers, but still the chair said that might be this paper should be presented. And so that was in Toronto, I remembered. So that was my first trip, even in flight. So I've been in Kharagpur, West Bengal, and I have never been traveling to any part of the India even before that. So I came to Delhi and took a flight to London, and then from London Heathrow we changed to, because that time there was no flight from India to Toronto, and that was an overwhelming experience because I got my first job there. So I got interviewed at Kai, and then I got a job and came to Japan. And now I'm continuing in Japan. I mean, after my postdoc job, then I shifted to. So that's really, really what Kai did for me. And I learned a lot over the years. So I came back in 2015, which was in Seoul. And then 2016, San Jose. 2017, I was sick. But our paper, co-author paper, got best paper award, but I could not attend because I was sick that time. I was in the hospital thinking about Kai. And 2018, I joined. I was not in 2019. Of course, 2020 was a virtual. And it's been overwhelming thing for me. So for the students, so maybe I would like to say something for the students which are based on India. I mean, based in India. So working in HCI. So I would rather say that for first Kai was completely, as everyone can expect, that this is just a very big show. Just go and enjoy something. And I remembered I enjoyed a lot of food, and as well as going out with some friends. 2015 was also my good experience because I was chosen as a student volunteer, and that was awesome experience for me. But slowly I became understanding, because this is the place where you need to be a bit more specific. I mean, more focused to your research. If you are doing some research already, and if you want to connect with people specifically, then you need to be very precise in your arrangement of the days during the Kai. So I'm quite sure that now you can find a lot of more time to think about, because this is a virtual. It's kind of a one click and to ask just, and then. But for the physical one, it's been too tough to arrange people. I mean, discussing with people or going over to lunch. And I have been organizing, I think this is my 4th year organizing a workshop at Kai. And that's quite nice because, we always have a smaller community and focus where we are researching on. And I really prefer sometimes nowadays is much more specific conferences because there your focus would be much clearer, in terms of what you are researching on and what you want to learn much more. Definitely for a big show is always overwhelming. And then another interesting thing I have been learned from, Koji Yatani, I think everyone from University of Tokyo. So he gave a good suggestion. He said his supervisors also pointed him is whenever you are talking to someone at Kai, be more focused on what you want to say or what you want to share, what you want to get from that. So he said he prepared 3 types of talks. So if you are very familiar, if it's someone very familiar with your work and you want to work with them, so you prepare a 5-minute speech for them. If someone who is completely new to your work just came to your talk and then or your poster and then want to discuss with you, so maybe prepare just the 3 minutes what you are doing or something like that. So it's having 3 different speech, and then he always being very prepared to doing that. So I would say that if you are doing some HCI research and you want to talk to people whose paper you read or you want to collaborate with, so then definitely prepare such kind of things in early. And also what already Suleiman and Neha said about that you need to prepare also and also he just said that you need to focus on which talk you're gonna attend and what questions you want to discuss or what points you want to note down. So those are very important. Yeah, overall, I think this is a really overwhelming experience for me, and Kai made my life even not until now, I would say. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions to me anytime, and I'd really like to help. Oh, hi. like to help. I mean, any Indian HCI researchers who are always feeling that, okay, maybe Kai would be very large for me. I mean, we cannot submit and we cannot do things. Don't worry, just go ahead. I think student research competition, student design competition, and nowadays we are also accepting papers in Asian Kai Symposium. So feel free to submit and see what happens. Yeah, that's all from my side, I think.
Thank you, Sen.
Hi, Adam. Nice to
Hello.
see you.
Nice to see you. Hello, Anuruddha. Hello, Neha.
Hi. So do we have any questions before we go to the next part of it? So we have Arun who's joined us also. Or we could take some questions towards the end. Okay. So Rucha, are you there?
Yeah, I just wanted to
ask
if some of the younger people, well, relative to Sayan, younger people, I think Rishi, do you want to say add stuff, or is there?
So I could add a couple of things.
Pranjal, yeah, of course.
So
young enough.
So one of the best thing what I enjoyed during my Kai time is the dinner and the lunch time, which you get to know with each other. So fortunate enough to have lunch because SC Across Borders organized one lunch, and then with Neha, with Naveen went for another. So lunch and dinner time is the best way to get to know each other, learn more about others' research work. And at that time, I also take an effort to talk to Nicola Dell, which was huge because I was reading her paper and I was very fascinated by Istiaq and by Nicola Dell paper. So I said hi. I talked about that. I read this paper, and that made me to also work with Nicola Dell in the future. So I'm currently also doing a small research work with her. But the gates opened up because of the Kai. And SC Across Borders is also, and workshops is one of the platform, I think, for us, at least for me, it opened up the doors to go to the Kai and meet other people. So after Interact, Kai was another platform to see the global audience in the SCI. And as Chandni mentioned, that it's not necessary to read or attend all the papers or all the paper sessions, but go and talk. And that was difficult because you never know how the other person would react. But I met many more professors from UK, US, and said hi. That was interesting. So Kai will open up a lot of doors for us and for every one of us who attend this year. Let's see how the virtual experience would be. So thank you.
Thanks, Pranjal.
Also, one more thing, if you are still thinking how to attend the Kai, so just to pitch in, there is a workshop which we are organizing. So apart from Asian Kai, you could also be part of SCI for South Asia workshop, which we will put in the link. So there you don't need to submit a paper, but you need to fill up a Google form. So that will also give you entry into the Kai. Thank you.
Cool. I think Rishi seems to have, Rishi's dropped out. So maybe when he comes back.
But also I saw Dilrukshi was there and somebody.
Yes.
I've turned off my non-video participants, but Yoshi.
Yes.
Dilrukshi, you want to add anything?
Sure. Hi everybody. I'm joining from Colombo, Sri Lanka. It's been a fascinating journey. I think I became the first and only one yet because I'm based in Colombo, living in Colombo, studying in Colombo, but got to know about lots of Kai things since 2015 because I got a chance to work with some of the foreign professors during my PhD, so that they talk about Kai process and the way that they the way the lab was getting ready to prepare for Kai was amazing. I mean, they spend whole pizza nights, 7 days sometimes, reviewing by each other. So that was a process that I never knew during my time within the countries that I have experienced. So that was my first experience of pre-Kai. But I never been to the Kai, the most experience that I had was people who have been in the Kai. I think I will know them by name. It's just that I never been able to meet them, face to face. So, for example, because of the papers that we have worked, and also the few workshops that I have been lucky to get involved, for example, Neha's work and the XCI Across Borders, and also now that we are our workshop on the South Asian, South Asia for XCI and Asian Kai. So those are great experience for me, not being able to visit the Kai, but still got the vibes of Kai. It's been privileged to work with everybody. Thank you so much.
Sure. And I saw Radhika had put up her hand when I asked if who else had attended Kai. And so Radhika, you want to share? Are you there still? Or maybe she's quiet. Rishi is not yet back.
I think there was some confusion.
Anupriya,
She thought.
Anupriya
I think yes.
I think been to Kai, if I'm not wrong.
Hi. So yes, I have been to Kai. I am currently a PhD student at IIIT Delhi, India, and I'm being co-advised by Dr. Neha Kumar and Dr. Pushpendra Singh. And my first Kai was in 2017, and I literally met my co-advisor, Dr. Neha Kumar, there, and that was the first meeting we met. And it started with the collaboration, which finally turned into he being on board, being my co-advisor. So Kai changed my PhD journey like anything. I was also very scared. I was hesitant. I did read Neha's paper, a lot of them. And I was like, I don't know whether I will be able to go and talk to her or not. But like she said, at the end of the day, all of the people there are humans. So it just took an introduction, like saying hi, and just a basic ice-breaking conversation on what I was doing at that time, which finally, in long run, now she's my co-advisor. So all you have to do is just do a little bit of homework. Don't feel hesitated. It's okay. It's what I have felt is by the time you don't go and attend Kai, it seems like such big, alienated, giant, unapproachable thing. But the moment you are there, you feel it's as normal as you sitting in your lab, as normal as you having conversation with your classmates. So it is achievable, it is approachable, it is as normal. You just have to take that one step. And you can apply for being student volunteer. You can start with applying for workshops. Like there are a couple of workshops with a lot of my colleagues and my senior researchers with whom I work are organizing, which are great avenues, given that we also have Gary Marson Virtual Travel Award. It's all accessible. We can go, this is your right opportunity, and we should all try and experience that while sitting in our own homes. So yes.
Thanks, Anupriya. Would anybody else like to? I don't know. I missed a few. I don't know if I'm missing anybody, or maybe we can just switch to Aaron and then we can come back to this.
Just one more thing that I would like to add. When it comes to Kai workshops, I found that that's always a good introductory way into Kai as well. So if you feel like your work is not quite at the point where you want to publish at Kai, or if you feel your work needs to go to a smaller conference, things like that, then that's fine. But the CHI workshop does give you access to a wide variety of people. And so if you have any ideas or you want to gather opinions, if you want to gather just collaborators for future research projects, don't put that in the CHI proposal, then a CHI workshop is a very good place to sort of do that. So if you get a good idea that you want to find different research themes around and you want to figure out who the people interested in that space is, then I'd recommend a CHI workshop. There have been times when I have taken part in CHI and all I've done is a workshop. And it also means that I have found more industry partners that way as well. So if you're looking for internships, or if you're looking for shorter collaborations, those are good places to go to too. So it's not just about the papers, I suppose.
Great, thanks. So perhaps we move on to the next one, and then we come back for more questions. Diksha, if you could share screen, and I hand over to Richa. She's still there.
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Yeah, hello. Hi, Professor Aron. Welcome here in our meeting. And I would really like to introduce him, though a lot of people already, aware of him and have seen him at a lot of times. But let's look at Professor Aron, who is a head of school in computer science and engineering at the University of New South Wales in Australia. He's a co-chair of ACM CHI conference on human factors in computing system, and an ACM distinguished member and distinguished speaker. He's also a member of ACM CHI steering committee and member of ACM Europe Council conferences working group. Sir, am I missing anything? There are a lot of things you're doing. So please take the stage and, let's look at what you want to say about CHI.
Sure. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about CHI. I also just wanted to give a little bit of context on why CHI kind of matters for me as well. So just for the context, I'm now a head of school and I have 54 colleagues, full-time academic members of staff. 6 of them come from across India. So we have a lot of Indian students. We have a lot of collaborations with India as a result. And we're also hiring at the moment. So if anyone's on the job market, we're recruiting for education-focused academics and shortly 4 more research and education-focused people. It's a very big school, about 3,700 students, and we have hundreds of demonstrators. But even though it's very big and it's very busy, we're still ranked #1 in Australia, and we have a few ACM fellows, number of distinguished members, senior members, IEEE fellows. So it's a very prestigious institution with lots of things. So if you're thinking of doing a PhD and you'd like to come to Australia, please have a look at UNSW. We've got some excellent researchers. So I'll go back to explaining that the very first time I went to CHI, I'd been to lots of conferences before. I did my PhD here in Australia, and I'd even organized a workshop. I'd organized a symposium here. I'd been to lots of small conferences, and then I went to CHI. And it was very lonely when I first went to CHI by myself, because my supervisor was back in Australia, and I didn't really know anybody in the international scene. So coming from Australia all the way to Montreal at the time, I didn't really know anybody. Okay, so it was very, very lonely. And I remember going in and everybody knew everybody. Like when you go to CHI for the first time, you'll think, oh no, nobody knows me and everybody else knows everybody else. And of course, that's not true, okay? It's just, all you're seeing is like one person who knows one other person times 500 or 5,000 or whatever it might be. And you think everybody knows everybody, but that's nonsense. Everybody doesn't know everybody. And that felt very intimidating the first time I went to CHI, because I go in, I register, SVs all know each other, the senior people seem to know each other, everybody seems to know each other. And it wasn't until about lunchtime on the first day that I actually met one of the person who I knew. And then of course, every time I would then see that person, we would say hello to each other. So then I knew one other person, and that person then introduced me to other people. And then I didn't feel alone, okay? So I think that's an important thing for when you go to CHI for the first time. You'll see, it seems like everybody knows everybody, but that's not true. Everybody knows a few people, and you just do the math, and it suddenly seems like everybody knows everybody, but they really don't, okay? So don't be intimidated, and just realize all you really need to know is one other person. And now, if you come to CHI, and you know lots of us, okay? So, you know, Anirudh will be there, Nehi will be there, I'll be there, Yoshihumi will be there. So you already know like 4 or 5 people. So when you see us, you can say hi as we're passing by, virtually or physically in the future, okay? So you're already one step up. I would also say one thing I didn't do when I first went to CHI was I didn't go to a workshop, and that's a huge mistake, okay? There's 50 workshops and 2 symposia on this year. They are mini CHIs, each one of them, and they are a brilliant way to get to know people. They can help shape the entire experience you have. So if you have yet to submit to a workshop, take the opportunity to submit. And there's also symposia are still open. So they are a phenomenal way to meet with a smaller group of people who then, of course, you will then know 30 or 40 people. Maybe you don't need them to say hello to them. But of course, at the moment in the virtual land, one of the great things you actually get to do is you get to be able to look at people's faces and say, oh, hi, Arka, hi, Tarun, hi, Avadat, hi, Marinja, you know, hi, Prati. And I'm terrible with names. So this is actually better in some ways because I can't always remember people's names. It's one of my failings in life. So actually in the virtual world, we're already one step up because your names are right there. Of course, you change your names, I'm in real trouble, okay? But that's one good thing about the virtual world. At least once you've known somebody and you can kind of see their name, you can kind of overcome that hurdle because you can kind of say like, hey, Neha, and you know the name, you see the face, and that actually helps you remember it. So but definitely take the opportunity to go to the workshops if you can. Now, if you can't go to the workshops, the other thing you should definitely think about doing, especially if you're a student, is you should go to the courses, okay? The courses are an incredible opportunity, okay? So they're not yet published as to exactly what the courses are going to be because the schedule for them is still being worked out. But what you get to do at a course is you get very close to somebody who's very senior in the community, who's going to spend a period of time explaining a topic. And you obviously pick a course that's related to your research or related to your future interests. Another thing you should think about doing at CHI is if you're towards the end of your PhD, or even if you're in the middle of your PhD, and you see a course, you're like, oh, I so wish I'd done my PhD in that, or I so wish I was thinking of doing a master's in that, or I so wish that was the job I had, or that's my dream. Do the course. Take the chance, go far away from what you're currently doing, spend a few hours listening. It's a networking opportunity. You'll get to know the instructor. You'll get to see all of the other, participants. You'll get to understand what's actually going on, and they'll be talking about research and ideas that are at the forefront. There's a researcher in Germany called Patrick Baudisch, who maybe a lot of you would know, and he and people like Albrecht Schmidt, another famous academic in HCI, in one of the strategies that they take when they go to conferences is that they put themselves into totally non-related conferences once a year. And now that I'm head of school, mine is the largest school in the largest faculty and basically in the largest university in Australia. So I get to go to all kinds of events where I'm far, far away from HCI on a kind of a weekly basis. So sometimes I'm going into like Saudi Arabia this week, and 2 weeks ago I was going into like an AI platform in Japan, and the week before that I was going into a system for photovoltaics, nothing to do with HCI. But of course, when you're far away from what you're normally doing, you suddenly hear ideas and you see things, you're like, they need HCI. And then you go into the people who are doing, the water center, or the people who are doing photovoltaics, and they're showing you some system that they're designing and they're showing some problem they've got. And then you realize you're like, they need computer supported cooperative work. They need UbiComp. They need intelligent user interfaces. They need socio-technical support. They need ethnography. They need design. They need. Okay, so actually going into something that's not really close to what you're currently doing can be a phenomenal opportunity for you to kind of expand your horizons, expand your mind, and maybe jump into a totally new area when you go into the next stage of your career. Right now, one of the things I did when I first came here has actually given me an idea for an entire new center. And I've nearly fully funded it now. Since we're recording this, I'm not going to give the name of the center. But you know, to set up a center in a university, you need millions. Like, you know, I need over like 13 million to set this thing up. So it takes a long time to kind of get the idea and then basically get the funding and put it together and bring companies together to actually do this kind of work. And it all came from going to something that wasn't really core to my own research in my own area. So courses, you look at them and you see the list of them going, oh, that's a class. I can do a class any old time. But do you get to talk to the instructor any old time? Do you get to meet all the other students any old time? You don't. When I go to the physical CHI conference, I tend to go to things that I couldn't do in my day-to-day job. So often I won't go to paper sessions. Often I will have actually been a reviewer for the papers that, of course, I would be interested in going to. So I've already read them and I already know the authors, and I've already actually seen the pre-production and I've been to their labs. I go to paper sessions sometimes at CHI and I see things that I saw the research done 7 years ago in a lab. So things I tend to go to are things like panels and SIGs. SIGs are another phenomenal thing at CHI. Again, it's core to your area. Obviously, you definitely want to go. You should be even thinking about setting those up in the future. If it's not exactly core to your area, but it's on the edge of what you're doing, it's really interesting to go and listen to these thought leaders discussing, why is this a special interest group? What's their vision for this going to be? Is it just a way of thinking about research? Is it a way of kind of opening up a new branch of knowledge? Is it something that's actually going to bridge into a whole new area of science or engineering or the humanities or whatever it actually might be? So SIGs are really a kind of and they're one-off, you know. The paper description of a SIG doesn't do it justice. Watching a video of it, that's not going to do it justice, okay? Being there, participating, asking the question, responding to somebody else's input, being part of the special interest group, that's very special, okay? The other thing I would say that you definitely want to do at CHI is come, especially this year, come to our keynote speakers. Again, you think, oh, this person like Ruha, you know, Ruha, I can go and watch her videos any old time. Okay, true. However, what you can't do is you can't go and hear her for the first time present, given she is now thinking about CHI, talking to the other keynote speaker for CHI, talking to us about CHI, and thinking about what is this multi-thousand person community? What are the visions that you have? Just recently, I noticed that, and I do wonder, is this something that actually came from NEHA and the Future of Computing Academy? Because the ACM now does a thing called Bytecast, and I don't know NEHA. Did Bytecast, did that come out of the FCA's blog of podcast activities? Do you know?
You know, I think if you ask the FCA folks who started their podcast, they will think or they will say that it came from them. But if you ask the ACM leadership, they claim that they came up with it on their own. So I do know that this is.
Yeah, interesting.
I disagree.
Well, when I see Bytecast, I see the fingerprints and the DNA of the FCA in there. Anyway, so one of the FCA one of the Bytecasts that was launched just 2 days ago was Maria Clave, who's the head of Harvey Mudd in the United States. Now, I invited Maria, she's the former president of the ACM. I invited her to St. Andrews 6 years ago to deliver what's called a Carnegie lecture. And when she came, she talked about, you know, women in computing and talked about her fundamental research in computing and all these different things. But then she got asked some questions by some of the students about leadership and what does it actually mean to be a leader? And just 2 days ago, I sent her a message to say, actually, what you said in that answer helped me think about becoming a head of school. I wouldn't necessarily have done it without listening to your talk. And this is why you go to these kind of keynote talks. I also think of somebody like Patrick Olivier, who thinks back, like I think 12 years ago, he went to a keynote where he learned all about sort of digital civics. And he says that was a kind of, that helped him rethink and reshape his thinking. So if you just go into a keynote thinking, oh, this is just another person talking, people who give keynotes are there to try and inspire the next generation and inspire you to think differently about the world of tomorrow. So go with an open mind to our keynotes, because we've thought carefully about who we've invited and we've talked to them about what CHI is all about. So you might get an idea, you might get an insight that will like totally change your direction and your vision for what you will do in the future. And I wrote to Maria just like a couple of days ago to say, hey, thanks very much for your talk. Just to let you know, you inspired me to take on this leadership role that I have now as head of school in Australia. and you never know where your influence will last. And that's the kind of thing I would also say that you definitely want to spend time going to. What else would I say that you want to kind of pick and go to that's interesting? I've always gone to the Alt Chi sessions. I've published at Alt Chi. We made a video of our Alt Chi talk, but because I don't want to get fired from my current job, I'm not going to put my Alt Chi talk online, because myself and my co-author actually had to design a play where we acted out a play, and I was Satan. I was an angel. I had to dress up, I had to die, he had to die. We had to fight with each other on stage to get our point across, basically, about the paper. So the video does exist. One day when I'm towards the end of my career, I'll release this. So Alt Chi can actually be quite a liberating and eye-opening type of piece of work to go to. So I remember, like, Junri Kimoto had a really interesting piece of work there a few years ago, which I still kind of cite very often when I'm talking about this chameleon system. It's basically where you send somebody else and they're wearing your face, and they go to another space for you and they're present on your behalf. So like you rent somebody, like an Uber, you rent somebody's body as an Uber, they go and sit in the meeting for you, and they wear your face and they sit there. And at the time, of course, we're all laughing, but now in pandemic time, you're like, well, maybe this isn't actually such a crazy idea. So it's very interesting, these kind of sessions. So Alt Chi is actually another good program to actually go along to. I'm not sure how much time more you want me to talk, because I could kind of go through the whole program and pick out the different kind of pieces that I would go to. Definitely also come along to something like the town halls that go on, just to kind of understand how the whole family of conferences work, to kind of engage with the community. But just try to go in to make sure you know a few people to get going with, and then basically try to build your networks as you go. Now, don't do what some students do, which is kind of go with a scorecard of the top 10 famous people that you need to talk to. That can be very aggravating. It's not bingo, okay? The other thing that people sometimes do is that they're trying to look for somebody more important to talk to. Don't do that. Okay, that's hard to do in a virtual world, but it's certainly very easy to do in the physical world, where you're talking to somebody and you can see they're looking over your shoulder, looking for somebody more famous to talk to. Don't do that. Don't be that person, okay? The other thing I would say is, like, listen to the people, okay? So you have something that you're interested that you want to say to them, but actually I tend to learn more when I listen than when I talk these days. So definitely be the kind of person who's, wants to ask interesting questions and then is listening to the answer. So wait to listen, don't just wait to talk. What else I would say is, yeah, also this is a very different time. We're online, and of course, I'm sure Yoshifumi has already explained, we put a lot of energy into creating our budget so that we could actually offer these, reduced rates. So they're already a third reduced from what they would normally be, and they're reduced even again. And I would say take the chance to dip in across the entire conference and experience as much of it as you can. Meet the exhibitors. You're going to get a chance now to meet exhibitors that in a way that you never would in the physical world, okay? Because the platform that we're going to be using allows you to connect with them in ways you can't do in the physical world. So that's a big bonus. Likewise with the sponsors, you can't do that. People are chasing Google down to go to the tickets, to get the tickets to the party. Insane things that people do at Chi. Okay, so the platform actually allows you to connect with people in ways you can't do in the physical world. So that's actually quite interesting. Definitely take advantage of trying it all. So like sign up for a course, attend the conference, go along to SIGs, go along to panels, make sure, please, please, please go to the keynotes, because I think, especially what Ruha is going to talk about and our other keynote speakers are going to talk about, they're going to give you very different perspectives on the challenges that we face globally, because human-computer interaction is a global challenge, okay? So that's why it's important that lots of people from India attend, okay? Your country represents a huge percentage of the world's population. If you're not there, if your voices are not there, if your brains are not there, you're like, there's only about 31 of us here, 30 of us here, okay? There's not enough people in the HCI community globally to begin with. There's probably not enough of us, there's probably not enough of you in India. And you just think of all the systems, all the pieces of software, all the different systems that are being built by government and companies across India, and you look at them and you're thinking, this would not pass an accessibility test. This would not pass a usability test. The user experience of this thing is a disaster. Why? Well, we don't have enough people who are educated. We don't have enough, companies who think this matters. We still think too much in a kind of an engineering-centric view of the world. And then like, oh, people can figure it out. We know that doesn't work. So you're like the ambassadors. You get the chance to come to Chi, You're the ambassadors who then can take this back, this knowledge, this learning back in to India, and then advocate for why the government needs to invest in this area, why universities need to teach this, why they need to hire more faculty, why they need to actually set up master's programs in HCI, why practitioners need to actually come back and do continuing professional development, why companies need to hire HCI professionals, okay? Why there should be better standards, why the standards that are global should actually be more embedded. So you have kind of a great responsibility, but also a great opportunity to kind of be the thought leaders in this area. And that's the billion people in China, and then the billion people in India, and then the same in China, and then the same in Africa, and the same in Latin America. Okay, so it's a global concern. So we're really keen on making sure that by reducing the rates, this is the chance for us to say, how big is the global HCI community? So if you don't come, we'll never know. So people go, I only want to go to CHI if I get to physically go. Then what other people will think is like, oh, there is no HCI community in India. There are no people in India who really care about HCI. Actually, there's 3 who come to CHI, and there's 3 who came to the virtual conferences as well. Okay, let's not worry about India. Is that the lesson you want to send to the global HCI community? I hope not. So take the chance, come along, be ambassadors, learn, have fun, get to meet each other, get to meet more people, and showcase the best that India has to offer to the global HCI community, because you are the future of HCI. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Arun. Oh, there's a question here. So there's a question. Divyanshu, do you want to ask it yourself? Okay, let me read it out. Okay, great. So his mic doesn't work, so let me read out the question. So Divyanshu had the question that I had a question about CHI workshops. I was going through the workshop related info on CHI website, but could not understand what a position paper is. Most of the workshops are asking for it for participation. Okay.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can either contact the general chairs or the organizers, and you can ask them. That's one thing you can do. However, today you probably heard 3 or 4 people here who said they're actually organizing workshops. So what you can do is you can ask those people, now that you know them, say, hi, you must have attended a workshop before. Could I see one of your position papers? And chances are either they have it to hand and they're going to drop it into the chat right now in a PDF link so you can see what a position paper looks like from a CHI workshop, or they'll email it to you afterwards, or there's examples of it online. When I last organized the workshop, sorry, I've got a possum running through my house here. The last position paper I wrote was 6 pages because we had a lot of technical details and tables and diagrams and sketches that we were actually including in it. The one before that was 3 pages. It basically has the idea for the position paper is that it has what you want to say at the workshop, what you want to contribute. So the last one, that 6 pages, is we were doing work that was we were in the middle of doing the work. We actually just got this work accepted to the PACM IMWAT. So it'll be a full journal paper at the UbiComp conference next year, or this year. But what we did is we went to the workshop and said, look, we think sensory substitution and sensory augmentation and sensory replication are things that are overly related, and the terminology, the nomenclature isn't well aligned. We have this taxonomy that we would like to get feedback on, and we have this way of describing the work that we think would help the community. So that's our position. We go, we present the work, 6 pages, lots of tables, lots of diagrams, lots of kind of paragraphs that explain the different areas that we were thinking of bringing together. And then what we wanted to get out of the workshop was basically feedback on it. And what we got was lots of great feedback, lots of people who were talking about related work that we didn't know about, people who were showing us survey papers that we weren't aware of, people who kind of made us think kind of very critically about our way of framing the problem of why would somebody want to read our paper, basically, and what would they want to do with the paper. And then we took all of that, and we basically bolted that into our IMWAT submission, and then we basically worked the IMWAT submission, and then of course we went through 3 rounds of journal revisions on it. So basically the position we took was the idea that we had for a journal paper that we wanted to write later, and we were looking for feedback on it so that we could improve the research and improve our thinking. And actually it ended up changing the study design that we were also thinking of doing. So that was my position paper, but I'm sure there's other people on the call who've had different position papers. And if you want to, I can share it with you, but other people I'm sure can share theirs with you also.
Yeah, so for each workshop, we have one in social VR and remote collaborations. And it is pretty much each workshop and the organizers deciding what they want in the position papers. A lot of the times you might find that a position paper is generally about just sharing your idea and your research theme and coming to the workshop with the open mind of, sharing ideas and things like that. And I love those workshops because those are a little bit more open-ended and not specifically just presentation of papers. They're a bit more interactive and you get a chance to talk to people. There are others, and this really depends on the type of workshop you're going to attend. There are others where it is a presentation of mini ideas. So they have done a piece of work and they have some answers or results maybe, and they're sort of trying to spread the word. And so you just have sort of a set of mini presentations inside that workshop. And that might be very appropriate to you, especially if you're a student who's starting out and you want kind of a literature review sort of experience. So you could go to those workshops as well. And also you could share your sort of mini results in that workshop. But yeah, it depends on which workshop you're going for. I put my email address in the chat. So if you want to ping me, I can obviously share about other workshops and also previous sort of experiences. I'll try to be helpful, but
I would not be scared or put off by the idea of writing a position paper. When I started my PhD here in Australia 25 years ago, my supervisor made me write a position paper about 10 days into my PhD. And then I had to basically get it written up within sort of 2 or 3 weeks after that. And then I had to go to the workshop and present it. And it was incredibly early ideas from just 10 days of reading and research and thinking. And of course, because writing it down, allowed my supervisor to read and think see what I was thinking. And we went back and forward and back and forward. And even now, there's actually 1 or 2 ideas in that position paper that actually made it into my thesis. 90% of it never made it into my thesis, which is fine, but it helped me position myself and think about what I wanted to do. So don't be put off by the idea that you have to write something. This is how knowledge gets created. You take it from your brain, you put it onto paper, digitally or physically, you try to express your ideas in a way that says, this is what I think is important, and this is how I'd like to do the work. And this is what I'd like to talk to you all about, and what I'd like to kind of get feedback on, or what I think is important in the world. So don't be afraid, especially with position papers for workshops. They're not supposed to be fully blown, polished ideas. Some workshops, of course, are. Some workshops, unfortunately, run themselves like mini conferences. They expect, 16-page, fully prepared conference papers, but that's not the point of a workshop. The point of a workshop is to do work. Okay, so there should be work to be done and feedback to be gotten. So just try, get some examples, and then start putting down, and start with the paper. Just start bullet pointing your ideas, and then try to find a mentor who can give you feedback on the writing.
All right. Thank you very much. So we have overshot our planned time by about half an hour. But are there any questions that people had off the top of their heads, or we don't want to hold up people for too long?
And we're thinking not to write a position paper. This time we have decided to go with a Google form. So you could check out our website workshop as well. So putting the link on there. So yes, but that Google form will take 15 to 20 minutes of your time, but a different format which we are trying in the Thai workshop. So yeah.
Okay.
Is it okay if I also drop the links for other workshops that we're doing, and maybe others could do the same, so that if you're looking for workshops to attend, you can check those out.
Everything.
Yes.
I've also put the link.
Anything that you want to last, you can paste in the document so that it stays after the Zoom chat, basically.
Yeah. So we are copying some of the links we got so far, but yeah.
Yeah, we have not copied our personal email addresses, but if you want.
Yeah.
It's
open documents, so yeah.
Okay. I guess Neha, you're organizing a workshop, aren't you?
A couple, actually. There's one on HCI Cross Borders, which we do every year, but every year there's a different theme. And so that's one actually that Dil Rakshi is also doing quite a bit of work for. And then there's another workshop that I'll share, which is actually, it does, I was looking to see if it requires a position paper. And in fact, it does require a submission, which is like a position paper, but it kind of walks you through it. It's on reporting the negative consequences of your research. So basically a discussion around what it looks like to reflect on the negative implications of HCI research. So I'm just gonna drop the link here.
That and so one comment and one question. One comment, that sounds very FCA to me. One question is, how long would a position paper be for that workshop?
So for whether it's HCI cross borders, I think both of them, in fact, I would just say that they're a few paragraphs long, because I think everyone this year is really trying to reduce barriers to participation so that you just, have a short submission of where you're coming from. If you want, you can actually send it in early and ask someone for feedback. So you could just say, this is what I wrote. Does this work for your purposes? And we would totally let you know. And I'm sure other organizers would also let you know if there's anything else you need to add.
Thank you.
Okay, so last call for questions or anything people want to say. All right. You can of course add any other questions that people have, and if you add it to document, then that also works, or just email the people directly because they have already shared their email IDs. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ishu, for me. Thank you, Arun, for joining us and telling us about Kai. And thank you, everybody, for coming in and sharing their experiences, which is all it, which was what it was about. And hope you all had your own tea, because it was a BYO, B kind of a chai pe charcha. And yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I just want to echo what Advait mentioned in the chat. Everyone is so helpful. This is super inspiring. So thanks, guys.
Yep.
Everybody's human. See,
everybody's human
when it comes to.
I think, Aaron, you also need to tell that for the Kai, we need to bring our own chai or beer also. You should mention that in the registration.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think what's interesting is one thing, I organized an event a few months ago where the topic was, it's always breakfast somewhere on Earth. And that's the thing to think about. It's like, at some stage during everything in Kai, someone is having breakfast for everything. Somewhere someone is eating breakfast. And the timing we did was quite nice. So we were able to have people having breakfast, having other people having dinner, and somebody else having lunch together. So we're all eating. And of course, you can't really tell what people are eating, but because you're eating together, you all feel like you're eating the same meal, even though, of course, you're eating different foods because they're in different countries and different times of day and whatnot. So, I think, yeah, we have to kind of remember that, as Neha said, like, we're all human. It's just it's one planet that we share. We don't have we can't just reboot this planet and then, start again. Like, we can't turn it on and off again. So we have to kind of understand that we're all sharing, like, a finite set of resources here. And we have to be very careful with what we do. So I think we do have a kind of a global responsibility to think about this, the planet that we're all living on together. So yeah, so please come along and have your breakfast while someone else is having their dinner, have your tea while they're having their lunch. And then, yeah, that's what you should probably do. You should try to convince people to have the kind of because your culture has very different ways of kind of relating with kind of food and and also just like how people socialize and how people kind of work together, and that's not the same as everywhere else in the world. So you should bring those lessons to Kai and teach us.
Right, and this time we could bring in the food in the paper session. In physical Kai, you're not allowed to bring in the food.
Actually, if we'd been in Yokohama, I think the venue actually would have allowed us to take in little bits of stuff from 7-Eleven because it's Japan. But that'll be another time. We'll have to meet in Yokohama in another year.
Right.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for coming over, everyone. Manjiri, you have a formal word of thanks or something?
I thought I sort of did that.
Before closing,
So I didn't want to make it very long. Rucha, go ahead.
Manjiri, before closing, I just want to remind everybody that registration opens on February 2nd, and it is discounted if you have a Sikkai membership. I'm also posting some links over here, and yeah, Manjari is sharing. So there are travel awards, so please check out this page and join Kai in a very discounted rates this time and take this opportunity. Yeah, thank you everybody.
And the discounted rates only apply for early bird registration, so make sure you register by March 16th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very important.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Nice to meet you all.
Cool.
See you at Kai.
Bye. See you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you, Anuruddha. Nice to see you,
Bye.
Yoshifumi.
Thanks.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet Thanks for coming.
Take care, Neha.
Thank you, Yoshifumi.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation,
everyone.
Manjiri.
Thanks for joining in.
Not at all. Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.